Okay. Wait a second. Oh no, I'm not done yet. Oh, darn it. Hey guys. Well, it's getting late in the year, and I just thought about this. I think it's time to inventory the snow chains and all the winter gear in the truck that I'm gonna need. So I think that's today's chore. Let me show you how it's done. Okay, so the very first and most important thing, I think, to inventory when we're getting ready for winter is going to be the snow chains, which on my truck are located right here, hanging from this really nifty snow chain hanger, but it's also locked. I got the key. Now, at least in my state, there should be 6 chains ready to be placed on the tires whenever you enter a snow zone. As you can see here, I've got 6 chains, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but I'm not going to stop here. I'm actually going to pull them off the hangers and spread them out on the ground to make sure that all the links are still intact. There's no broken links. Make sure it has all their hooks and everything is completely serviceable. It's important to remember also that this is not the same truck that I drove last year. Matter of fact, I honestly don't know who drove this truck last winter, and I don't know who hung up these chains the way that they did, but this is not how I would hang them up. And it's important to hang them up the way you want them so that you can pull them off the hangers in the way that you would to get it done hasty-like. I'll go more into detail when we get to that, but for now, let's just spread these out on the ground. Okay, I got all the chains spread out nice and neat where we can see everything. I'll show you what I'm looking for when I inspect these. Alright, so as we get down here and we're looking at the chains, what we're looking for is broken links or broken cross links or any major twists in the chain. And as you can see, most of these seem to be in pretty good condition. Oh, now we found one right here. As you can see, this one's broken in half, so that's not even going to go all the way across the tire, and this chain is therefore unserviceable. We actually have to throw this completely away. It's garbage. If we find any major twists like this, then usually this is fixable just by, you're gonna have to play with it a little bit and flip around the chain around in itself. And usually that should about do the trick. Yeah, that looks much better. And we're going to do that on all 6 of those chains. Okay, now that we've inspected all of our chains, and we did find that one broken one, we're going to hang them back up on the hangers. And I'll show you how that works for me. You might have your own variation of this, but this is what works best for me. Now, typically when I remove the chains from the tires, at the end of every time I chain up, I pick up the snow chains like this. I grab the side farthest away from the cams, like so. And then I'll walk kind of funny like this, all the way back to the chain hooks over here. And then, while holding the chains in the same manner, I set the one end down, still holding this end, and I follow it to the very end to the last square. Still making sure that I'm holding on to the outer edge, or rather this will end up being the inner edge. I start putting it on the hooks. Now when I fold it up and layer it, you notice how I skip one of these squares. That'll be on the outside, and the next square gets hooked. And then I skip that square, and this square gets hooked. And I keep doing that back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Until it's all hung up. And I do them all in the same exact manner. That way, when I'm ready to chain up again, hopefully the following day, not the same day, because that would be a really drag, all I have to do is grab this end, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it just keeps feeding right off until, wouldn't you know it, I'm holding it the same way that I was when I started. And I'll show you why that's important. Now, when I'm chaining up, I want to be holding on to the inner rail, the inner side like this, with the cams. I don't know if you can see them, but the cams are on the bottom. The reason I'm doing that is because I'm going to go like this and drape them over. That puts the cams on the outside. And that's why I hang them up on the hangers the way I do. Because the more you put them back the same way every single time, the more you're going to pull them off the same way every single time. Okay, so you see the reason why I put them on the hangers exactly the way I do. Again, you can do it your own way. Nobody's going to fault you, as long as it gets done in the end correctly when they're on the tires. Let's get these things stored away. Now, real quick note, the one that's broken, I'm going to have to replace it. So I'm going to make sure that I put it on the outside, one of the outside hooks, so that it's easy to get to when I get back to the home terminal, the yard, wherever your company keeps your snow chains. That way I can take this one off and grab a new one when the time is right. One last point of note that I should mention is that when you're done hanging up all your chains all nice and neat like this, be sure that anything that might be dragging on the ground is picked up. And I don't know, I like to hook it on somehow, some way, just so that it's not dragging on the ground. When your chains drag on the ground, it wears them down, and especially if your concern is during the summer when you're locked them away for the summer season, if they're dragging on the ground, they could spark and inadvertently cause a wildfire that you don't even know because you just drove away from it. So I'm going to get down real low, and I'm going to look all the way across, and I'm going to find other chains that are dragging on the ground, and I'm going to make sure that they're picked up. And then the very last thing I'm going to do is lock them all up so that they don't get stolen. Okay, another thing that I'm going to look for is all my fluids. Now this is kind of a year-round thing, so you really should have these on your truck at all times. I'm talking about oil, coolant, windshield washer fluid, etc. I keep mine in the side box. It's just below the sleeper bunk. Ah, yes. What do we got here? I've got coolant, motor oil, and a whole basket of more motor oil, more coolant, and of course, windshield washer fluid. Now the windshield washer fluid is one of those things that you really should stock up on, especially during the winter. You go through a lot of it, but for now, it's gonna live right there. Some Some other things that I'd like to point out is I've got a funnel just in case I need to put the motor oil into a small filler tube, either on the main engine, or in my case, I pull a reefer trailer, so I might have to get motor oil into the reefer unit, and that could be tricky without a funnel. Another thing I like to keep with me is some sort of penetrating fluid to loosen up stuck bolts. This works really well when bolts get frozen over. So if you have a breakdown or something, then you can break them free from the ice. Also comes in handy during the summer if you have rusty bolts. Okay, what else do I have? Of course I have my other stuff, like my trusty tire thumper, fifth wheel puller, and a small stockpile of road flares. Now, this is really kind of one of those things that some truck drivers are going to have and some are not. I keep road flares just because they are much easier to see, particularly at night from a great distance. However, if any truck driver in particular that's hauling hazmat may or may not even want to use road flares, particularly if the hazmat is flammable or explosive. So keep that in mind if you're stocking up. In my case, I'm going to keep some road flares. And of course, first aid kit. Never leave home without a first aid kit. Actually, I've got several of these in the truck just because I'm a little crazy like that. I keep one in my bug out bag. They're just a good thing to have. And since we are gearing up for winter, you're gonna want to get your hands on one of these. It's a scraper on one end to scrape the snow and ice off your windshield or other spots on your truck, and a brush and a squeegee on one end. Most importantly, in this particular case, the one that I've got is extendable, which is very important when you're working with bigger trucks like this. You may not be able to reach all those hard to reach places like the windshield without opening the hood and climbing up on a tire, which can be dangerous when everything's icy and snowy. Everything else that we're going to find in here is stuff that you should find on your pre-trip year-round anyways. Triangles, fire extinguisher, and some other smaller trinkets that we're all supposed to carry. Now, another item that I like to carry, and you don't have to, but I do, is a shovel. And I like to keep mine right back here on the catwalk, just because it's not going to fit inside the cab underneath the bunk. So it's bungeed down to the catwalk, and it stays with me pretty much everywhere I go. The shovel is important to me because I don't like to run too many expenses. If I need a tow out, if I can help getting myself out, self-recovery, then I'm going to try to save $1 and get myself out with a shovel and any other apparatuses that you might have at your disposal. So the more tools you have with you, including a shovel or maybe tow chains, which that's a really weird spot to be in because chains can break, so can toe straps. So you got to be picky and choosy and very, very careful when you're dealing with that stuff. I don't particularly have straps or chains to tow with, but I do keep a shovel with me to be able to get myself out before I call a tow truck. That might save me and my company $1 or $2. Another thing that I have with me almost at all times, but comes in particularly important during the winter when it seems like everything can break down, is just a simple milk crate full of tools. I'll show you what I've got inside there. So my milk crate full of tools is kind of a bag of tricks. I have a lot of things that I probably will never need, but I have it anyways just in case I do. One thing I found the most important is jumper cables. You get a good quality set of jumper cables, make them long and make them a thick gauge too. And I keep a couple of extension cords because I do have a power inverter, and from time to time I need to power a power tool or charge up my electric power pallet jack, etc. A small kit with various screwdriver bits. I will probably never ever need this. Not much has screws. However, I have noticed that some of these hex bits, or even some of these star-shaped bits like that, have come in handy when it comes to fixing items in the interior of the truck. So if I need to move a panel or something, I'll use one of these. So it's not without its uses. Speaking of turning things, I also keep one of these. Now, this is just a small impact driver. It's got a 1/4-inch hex bit right there that grabs a hold of just about any modern bit that you might put into it. And then, of course, it'll turn it. Pretty much no matter how stuck it is. At least I haven't come up with anything yet that didn't put up enough of a fight to resist this. And of course, another set with drill bits and other adapters, some socket drivers that'll all fit the same impact wrench. I have, of course, a multimeter. You never know when this is going to come in handy. You think that all your gauges are right, but then you play the multimeter to a battery or a connector, for example, and suddenly you realize that the amount of volts it's putting out is not what it says it is. Very handy. Now, of course, what toolkit would be complete without a pack of zip ties and wrenches, and of course a hammer, a big one. Just because what good is a hammer that doesn't really smash things? I also have various grabbing and cutting tools for various cutting and grabbing needs. Just because these are handy for opening like seals on the back of your trailer, or turning those really big nuts and bolts that the small wrench sets won't grab. Some extra wire, an extra tool for turning the cams on the snow chains, a headlamp so that you can see around you and put on snow chains at night, some WD-40, and don't laugh, I like glow sticks because you can use them to mark the location of things in the dark. I know that sounds a little weird, but you just never know when this kind of thing is going to come in handy. At the very least, the worst comes to worst, let's say you're driving at night and you find out, oh my gosh, my taillights are not working. Grab a couple of red chem lights grab a couple of red glow sticks and duct tape them to the back of your trailer and you're back on the road. What kit wouldn't have adhesives? I carry shoe glue because it's flexible and you can use it on almost anything that is soft. And I also keep some JB Weld for all the things that are hard. And of course, super glue. So that's all the major stuff that I keep in my toolbox. Now look what you made me do. Now I gotta put it all back. Alright, so the very last category of things that we're going to inspect for is creature comforts. We're talking about the things that are going to keep you alive, even, or at the very least comfortable if you become stranded in the snow somewhere or at the very least in a rest stop, and they've closed the highway. So the first thing I'm going to make sure that I've got is food, which is stored right up in here. I've got a container full of silverware that I keep with me. Napkins, salt and pepper, most importantly, a steak knife. You know what I'm talking about. I got paper towels right here because I'm a messy eater. And I have lots of canned food of various types. Anything that you think is delicious, suitable for your eating. Something I find very handy and easy to consume when you're stuck in the middle of nowhere is canned chili. And the reason for that is you really can just slap this in a bowl and stick it in the microwave. Or if you're really stuck and you have no power, then you could at the very least grab a spoon, pop the top of the chili, and just eat it cold. It's not the most pleasant thing. I've had to do it a few times, but it will sustain. Now, of course, along the lines of food, I'm also going to make sure that I have lots of paper bowls. I don't really go for plates all that much because, well, they don't hold soup very well. So I usually just go with the bowls. You can put almost anything in a bowl, even if it's a thing that you'd normally put on a plate, like vegetables or a steak. You can still put it in a bowl and it'll work just fine. And of course, any seasonings that you find appropriate to kind of zhuzh it up a bit. Oh, yes, one more thing. I have found a liking to canned chicken. I know that sounds a little weird, at least it is to me, or it was to me, until I discovered that you can get chicken in a can. I get the larger cans. It looks an awful lot like a tuna fish can, but it preserves for a very long time. This one expires 3 years from now. So, as you can tell, they last a long time. I'm not saying that we're, going to live, try to, live out the zombie apocalypse or anything like that. But I am saying that if it goes in a can, chances are you can keep it in a shelf instead of in the fridge, and I'll save you room in the fridge, especially if you run a truck that the fridge doesn't run when you turn off the ignition switch. So it might come in handy to keep food that can be stored at room temperature. Alright, so the last thing among the creature comforts realm or category is obviously bedding. This is probably the most important thing if you are going to get stranded. You want to be able to stay absolutely warm. In my case, I got a camping sleeping bag that is rated to 20 degrees below zero. That's kind of overdoing it, I admit, but you just never know. If the heater in the truck fails to work or whatever, and I have actually used this very sleeping bag in 0-degree weather with the heater not working, and it works great. It kept me warm. The only hard part was waking up and trying to crawl out the next morning. So warm bedding is a must, a good fluffy pillow, and even, just in case, an extra sleeping bag, just because you never know what's going to happen. It, at the very least, is going to provide some extra padding underneath your bed, or rather between your sleeping bag and your mattress, just for some comfort. And speaking of comfort, I've got my little friend here too. Alright guys, so that's my inventory for winter preparedness, for driving down the road anyways. It might be quite a bit different from what you might put in your car, but that's because I'm out of the road for a lot longer, spending nights in the truck, and I just never know where I'm going to end up next. If you have any variations on this, or if you want to add something or take away from, go ahead and leave those in the comment section below. Hey, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you really enjoyed this video. I know it wasn't much, but hey, like I say in all my other videos, if I'm doing something at the very slightest bit interesting, I want to get it on video and share it with you guys, and I really hope that you found it enjoyable or at the very least bit entertaining. If you do like it, go ahead and smash that thumbs up button. Let the algorithm know that you liked it. And let me know also that you like what I'm making. I'll see you in the next one. Finally.